Be out by 10, right?
I know. You got other things going on, so.
Hell, the IBM.
Oh, yeah, you start singing Daisy. It's like,
That's that.
nuts.
You knew
We're involved.
that we're doing bump up the house by one better.
You see my proposal new game display.
Do it.
Yeah.
I like it. Bump it up by one letter?
Teach you.
Oh,
Yeah.
JB, oh, JBL.
The club agreed.
H.
Club agreed.
Bump it up.
HI.
Bob Allison wants to talk to you.
HB.
He's in Florida that day, unless he would have been here, so.
A. Just B.
Oh, IBM. Oh, you got it.
Now I get what you meant. That's right. I didn't know that. That's awesome. That's probably something Stanley Kubrick can
Probably.
Yeah.
Is that a coincidence?
Putting together
I don't think so.
sales
I
plan
don't
for
think it
the
was a
excess stuff
it
back
can't
there.
be. Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah.
People like
Peter
that
and
came up with that.
Dan were talking about it. So.
Yeah. When I was in the Air Force and I saw 2001 back at that time, that was probably 1969.
68, yeah.
Well, we didn't see it until 69 because the movies were late for us.
All right, gang, let's get started here. We got a busy morning.
He was a real
Welcome and thank you for coming.
about the IBM, bump it up by one letter.
Welcome to the annual meeting representing the 28th year of the museum in existence, which is great. We didn't have annual meetings all the way along, so I can't say it's the 28th meeting, but it's the meeting that represents the 28th year. Again, like I said, this is wonderful. Everybody showed up. You know, a lot of people think that this organization is a collection-based organization. It's not, as I've told the volunteers over and over and over again. It's a people-based organization. The collection means nothing without the people that support it and present it, and that's you guys. And it contributes in all different ways. Some people hands-on day-to-day here, some people supporting it financially, some people just out there spreading the good news, and we need all of it, and everybody fills that role very nicely. So thank you. Yeah, we got a busy day. We got the meeting, and then the hand club is going to meet afterwards. You're going to be meeting
That's in Union Street.
yeah, down the street at the tavern, right? But then Danny Fitzen is going to be running one of his repairs clock here, and then there's the fellow Crystal Radio. That's the morning. We'll see what happens in the afternoon. But, that's good. That's the way it happens around here sometimes. The year in review. Yeah, we got to hold this to 1 hour. So you're right, Peter. This could be tricky. We did it's hard at this museum to figure out exactly what the gate is at the door because not everybody signs their guest book. And we went through an estimate. There's over 130 pages of people signing in and like 14 lines per page. But many times families sign in on one page. So we estimate around 2,500 to maybe 3,000 in the book, okay? And then tons of people come and go and never sign in. So I would say our attendance is somewhere up around 5,000 is what I'm guessing per year. And it's not bad. I mean, I know you listen to the Air Museum up the street and they got 150,000 people a year and the whole bit, and what you do. One of the nice things about us is we are not dependent on what walks through the door because we're a very diverse organization in terms of how we make income. So, and the other thing that I feel is it's kind of important that we stay small, because we have the personal approach of individual tours and so forth, where if we had masses of people coming through here, we would lose that. So it's kind of neat that we are small. And, you know, I was joking with somebody up here this morning and I said, you know, if I went to a convention of museum directors and told them it's a good thing we stay small, they'd throw me out. You know, they're like all trying to get more and more people in, but we can give people the personal approach, the personal touch, the personal tours, which is what everybody comments on when they leave here. How great the staff was, what a great education they got, and if we just let them walk around and look at the stagnant radios out there, they would get bored very, very quickly, and they don't. They end up spending 3 and 4 hours here. So some people, I tell them, I said, you know, you could have gone to the movies and spent twice as much and gotten half the entertainment. So it works. But anyways, yeah, that's, you know, that is the attendance. And when we have swap meets and things like that, nobody signs the book. So we have all kinds of people that come in for that. We have people that come in requesting tubes and and schematics, and they don't sign in. That's one of the things we at the desk got to try to do more of. Anybody that walks through the door, we got to try to get them to sign in so we have a record. Some of the things, this is just actually from the second half of last year's schedule. The list that you see there, the groups that we dealt with and the things that we did. Human Resource Unlimited is a organization for special needs groups. They've come through several times. I went down and did a talk at Clinton Library. They asked me, I don't know exactly how they connected up with us, but they asked me to come down, and my wife and I went down and talked, and then next thing we know, Ann's getting equipment from Clinton Library for our new library. So you never know what's going to happen with these neat connections, but whenever people ask me to talk, I'm going to be going up next week, I guess it is, to talk to the Holyoke Hymn, to go up there almost every year and talk to them. They're meeting now in, I guess, the Holyoke Hospital Auxiliary area or something, and so I'll be up there next week, I think next Friday, talking to them. Talker Magazine and Pioneer Valley Radio. When they came through, I didn't realize how big this was, but they came through and did a piece on us, and I was interviewed by, and I can't even think of his name now, isn't that terrible, but because I'm not in the industry, but Talker Magazine is the industry magazine for broadcasting, and the guy that runs it is big. And it was funny, a week or so after I did that, I turned on TIC in the morning, and they've got him on TIC being interviewed, and I go, oh, okay. So that was cool, that was good exposure. Steampunk event, I mean, we do everything. They had a steampunk event in Manchester, and we set up a display over there and had a lot of fun. Elderly group out of Orchard, out of Southington, Cedar Mountain seniors, we do a lot of senior groups coming through. Of course, we do the CBA convention. This year it was at University of Hartford, and John and Dan and myself, well, Ann was there, you know, and talked to all the people in the industry, and they've been very, very supportive. West Hartford Regents is a bunch of retired business people in West Hartford, and they had me come and talk during the week and during this past year. Windsor Senior Center. So that's just a handful of groups that we've dealt with coming and going. So it's amazing the outreach, what's going on up there. Financial, and if you got questions as we go along, just interrupt, you know, and we'll answer anything you got. Let's see if I can do this right. One of the things we have this year, and it's still being tuned, is John Wigglesworth has done an amazing job at trying to take all of our expenses and all of our incomes and put it down on paper for the first time in 28 years. So big hats off to John, because it's coming together. And as we look at these numbers, we're finding we have a lot more to work with, but it really kind of gives you an interesting picture as to what's going and coming in this organization. On the left, you got the income. Rent is $21,888 a year. Admissions, we do over $10,000 worth of admissions a year. Memberships, we're looking at 800. The store has brought in about almost 1,500. eBay is, of course, our biggie. And this is the best estimate we can have on our eBay business, but we're talking almost $50,000 in eBay business a year. Okay, and hats off to the eBay crew, unbelievable. I think we got it pretty much down to a science. We have people that do the listing, people that do the photography and the descriptions, the packers, the shippers, and it goes amazingly smooth. We occasionally run into disgruntled buyers for crazy reasons. I have the mercury tube tester, by the way, out in my car.
Oh, it's back already.
But it doesn't have any numbers.
Funny story. For those that don't know, big mercury, it's almost like a store type tube tester. We put it up, and I forget what they paid for it, but anyways, it went to Ohio, and they got it, and it had a meter setting knob on it, which had no calibrations around the knob, because the calibrations were on the meter screen. You know, the needle goes across and it says meter setting calibration. And so they immediately get it, they open it up, and they write back to us and said, there's no calibrations on the knob. So Chris and I were conversing with this guy, both of us, and it took like 5 or 6 emails to get him to understand there are no calibrations on the knob, the calibrations are on the screen. So he finally got that, and then he said, okay, and so he plugs it in, and who knows what he did to it, tried to test some tubes, and he said it doesn't power up. And he sends us a picture of the plug right next to the plug, plugged in with a switch in the opposition. The little red light is not coming on. And we're thinking, this is not the right guy to have a mercury tube tester. So we finally give him a refund, and he sends it back. I received it at home because we got the post office box, so we usually send things back to my house. I took it out of the box, I plugged it into the outlet right in the kitchen, and hit the switch, and the red light came on. There is nothing wrong with that.
He didn't have
tube
the
tester.
switch on the wall up or something like that.
He claimed he had this, his CD player was plugged into the top part of the plug in the, you know. But, you know, we send some of these things out to people that should not have, but you don't know until they got it, they shouldn't have. It's back, it's out in my car, and we will relist it and send it out again. We write that off as the cost of doing business, because it costs us, you know, shipping, some part of the shipping or whatever. But in all, overall, we do very well with eBay. The sponsor display, we have quite a few people out there now sponsoring. If you look at the little cards on certain displays, it's so-and-so sponsors this display. We got $600 last year from that. Donations, just straight up donations, whether they're coming in the jar or people giving us checks, about $2,700. Matching donations, many people are starting to get their companies. Several people right here in this group are doing this. And what they pay in, they get their company to match. And we're getting over $900 in that way now. The jukebox was, of course, a special project, and of course I left it out of the agenda, but we'll talk about that. Was a special project last year. The soda money. Now this is kind of funny because if you look kind of across and down on the other side, our expense for soda was $404, and our income for soda was $147. Maybe we should cut out soda. No, we're not going to cut out soda. This is the accounting, and this is important for a lot of the people that are here. A lot of times we don't, you know, either people take a free soda, or we don't put the money in the proper place. So it's there. The money is coming in, and I'm sure we're making, because we're selling the soda for almost twice what we're buying it for, right, John? Isn't it? Yeah. So I know we're making profit here, but it's not showing up where it should. And that's one of the things we're trying to do to tighten up the accounting of the museum, is get this accounting. So it's very, very important that if you do take a soda and pay for it, put the money in the soda jar, not in the box.
It's the way to look at it is the $147 isn't real. The money that was put somewhere else, and it's somewhere else in one of those.
Yeah, or it just didn't get recorded properly. Yeah.
It's
But I
somewhere
mean,
else in one of those.
Basically, if we spent $404 on Avery soda, we should have made about $800. And we probably did, but we don't have an accounting for it. So this is where we got to tighten up a little bit on some of these things. Swap meets, $2,711 for last year. Just the coffee from the swap meets. And again, the coffee is kind of funny because it's the same situation. If you look on the other column right at the bottom, we spent $163 on coffee and donuts. We only made $98. I don't think so. We made more than that, but it just did not get accounted properly. So again, you know, if we do this stuff, it's important that if you buy a coffee and a donut, put the money in the coffee and donut money jar and not in the general kitty jar, and we'll get a better accounting of this. Tubes, $317, almost $318. Crystal classes, $480. Library passes, $250. This is something Bernie has got going, where we have 6 of them now. Five libraries in the area that buy a pass for $50, and they have it at the library and they advertise it. So it's advertising for us. It's exposure. In fact, I think it was Ian found a video of one of the libraries was showing Vintage Radio and Communications Museum used the pass. And then people that go to the library can take the pass, come here for free. Now, it's kind of neat the way it works out, because if people never use the pass, we get a free $50, basically. And if they do use the pass, that's okay. So it's another
I can tell you on Sunday I've had a few people with the library pass. So.
I mean, our history has always been, we don't have one major funding source. We have a lot of small ones, and there's a great example. All of that, all put together. The major one emerging, obviously, is eBay. But it's the best accounting we've had in a long time, ever.
What percentage is eBay of everything?
What's that?
What percentage is eBay of the total?
A majority.
Yeah, probably 50%. Somewhere around 50% of the total. Yeah. So on the expense side, you can see some of the major expenses. $32,400 for the mortgage. Taxes, we do have to pay taxes for the part of the building that is rented. That's $5,035. The phone and internet costs. The next two are very interesting, and we're still trying to deal with this. This building is heated by gas, and believe it or not, in 1 year it only costs us $1,891. You pay more for your house than we pay for this 12,000 square feet, 13,000 square feet. And some of you may not know why, but Bill Thompson, who's one of our volunteers, I don't think he's here, was directing the building up at New Departure in Bristol. And one of the new tenants that came in was Firestone, and they were making the 4-inch insulation, 4x8 sheets that they put under roofs and so forth. And when they first set up and started running their machinery, they were taking stacks and stacks and stacks of these 4x8 sheets of 4-inch thick styrofoam insulation and parking them outside the building. So Bill went to him and said, "Why are you doing that?" They said, "Oh, all that stuff is not up to spec. We haven't tuned our machines yet." And so he said, "What are you going to do?" "Oh, it's all junk." He says, "You mind if I take it?" He went out with his forklift, and piles of this stuff came in. See these walls? See how thick they are? This whole building, all the way around our section, is all insulated with full 4-inch styrofoam insulation. This building is insulated better than a refrigerator. And that's why it only costs us $1,800 a year to heat our space. Okay. On the other hand, you go back up to electricity, and the electricity costs are $4,691 to light the place, basically, and run the air handling systems. But we've been chipping away at that as best as possible. These lights you're under right now are all LEDs. We've converted a lot. We've got to do a lot more, but we've converted as much as possible to LEDs. These units under fluorescent lights were probably pulling about 80 watts, and with these, we're probably talking 13, 14 watts per. They used to have 2 loops in them. We found that the LEDs are so bright, we only needed to put 1 loop in. So that's how we're going from 80 watts down to maybe 12 to 15 watts of power. It's like a 70–80% savings. Much of the display area is under LED lighting now, and parts of the storage area, that's the part we have to work on more, is getting the fluorescence out of the storage. But the LEDs you can buy now are not dependent on ballast. The ballast on a fluorescent light usually draws like 15 watts of power. So you eliminate the ballast, you plug it into 120 volts, the wattage of the ballast goes away, the wattage of the fluorescence go away, and you're down to about 12.5 watts. Where it was 80 watts before. So we're getting there, but the electricity is the biggie. Water, nothing much you can do about that. Sprinkler, that's basic maintenance. We have to have our sprinkler system checked every year. Building insurance is about $4,000 a year. We have director and director's insurance to cover liability for the directors.
And the board, and I believe. Board is covered also.
Yeah, the board, new directors and board, right. HVAC maintenance, they come in 2 or 3 times a year to check our HVAC systems. Crystal set supplies, buying all the parts for that. Museum store, that varies. We just spent a week or 2 ago, we replenished all of the wearables. We bought more polo shirts, more t-shirts, and more hats. We were basically out of hats, and it was $1,500, almost $1,600 that we just paid for that. But again, the profit on that is almost double. So for the $1,500 we spend, we'll eventually get $3,000 back, which is big. The accountant every year to do our taxes, basic maintenance, postage, office supplies, you know, miscellaneous. There's the soda and the coffee and donuts. The website to set up GoDaddy costs about $400 and almost $500 a year. Sales tax. Anything that we sell out of the gift shop has to be charged sales tax. The state requires, even though we're nonprofit, so we have to collect the sales tax and then report it at the end of the year. Reimbursements, the guys have gone out and bought stuff from the museum, we reimburse them. There's the jukebox expenses, which was a special project last year, and some equipment purchases that went along with the jukebox. So that gives you an idea. The totals of these 2 columns don't work out because of the accounting that we're still trying to straighten out. To tell you the truth, the 2, if you totaled them up, we're looking at like a $34,000 profit. We haven't got a $34,000 profit. So there's more work that John's doing to try to figure this out, and like I said, helping by putting money where it belongs as you operate in here for the volunteers will be a big help to get this straightened out.
Creative accounting.
So there should be maybe a $2,000 difference between the two columns, and that's about it. But this is the first time we've had a very thorough picture of what this place is costing us and what it's producing to operate. But, yeah, John has put hours and hours, and we built him an office back there, and he spends time in the office now doing that. But
Because we got tired of having all the books on the table up front.
well, that's true. Yeah, we had to find him a place. So, any questions on that, on the finances? One of the goals of this whole process is we are looking at refinancing the mortgage. John Quigley, who sold us the building and took the mortgage back, would love to get out from underneath it. It's kind of funny because I think his thought was initially, I mean, God bless him because he gave us the chance. But I think his thought was, oh, you know, I'll throw this ragtag group of museum guys a mortgage. They'll probably go under in a couple of years. I'll get my building back and we'll be all set. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. We're still here 11 years later and still solvent. So,
How much is still owed now? Sorry.
Good question. I should have been prepared for it and I wasn't. But we have paid down substantial amount on that mortgage. And I know I've got it in the bag somewhere, I think, don't I, John?
I think it's in there. You want me to get the book? I can do that faster.
Yeah,
You'll
go
find
ahead.
it there. Hang on.
I had the package, but no, we have
Careful,
done a
wire.
substantial amount. While John's getting it, I'll tell you, the $2,700 a month that we pay is more than we have to pay. We're prepaying on the mortgage. It's a variable mortgage that varies every 2 years, I believe it is, based on the prime rate plus whatever. And of course, shortly after we took the mortgage out about 10, 11 years ago, the interest rates started to drop. And it was to our benefit. So John wrote us and said, do you want to continue to make the same payments or do you want to reduce the payments to the new rate? We decided to keep paying it because we have been able to do that. And so we have, and the rate has changed several times over the last 11 years, basically to our benefit, and we've continued to pay the $2,700 a month. And so that's gotten us well ahead in terms of prepaying. And so it's dropped quite a bit.
I think this is it.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So the initial amount was what, 400,000, right? We had a $400,000 mortgage, I believe. Yeah. And at the end of 2017, our balance was $253,629. So we're approaching halfway on the mortgage in terms of amount.
Are we still considering refinancing?
Yes, that was the point, is that we approached Windsor Federal once, and I don't think they gave us a real serious look. It was kind of a strange situation. I talked to a fellow by phone over there, and he says, why don't you bring all the paperwork over and drop it off, which I did. I never met the guy. And then a week or two later, he called back. He says, I think the income's a little thin. He says, you can come in and pick up your paperwork. I never met with him, never met this guy. So I went in and picked up paperwork, and he wasn't even there. Some lady gave me the paperwork.
I thought Quigley was gonna go with you sometime.
He is. But one of the feelings that we had was we didn't have a record. And now we're getting a good record. And John has done 2017, he's working on going back to 2016. And once we get a good financial picture of what's happening, we may try it again. And John Quigley knows the guy who runs the mortgage department there, because John is an investor in buying and selling and stuff. So he said he would go in with us because John would like to get out from underneath the mortgage because he's getting older, and you know, even though we're paying it off fairly quickly.
Are we gonna try and lock in a fixed rate going forward?
We'll have to see what's available.
Look like they're gonna be sliding upward.
Right, right.
Yeah.
If they'll give us that. You know, being a commercial, it would be under a commercial category. You never know what they would do. But there's a number of things we could do. If we could reduce the monthly payment from what John Quigley is requiring us to pay, even at the reduced interest rate, to a smaller, based on the $256,000 balance, we might be able to prepay even more by continuing to pay the $2,700 a month to, say, Windsor Federal, and then get even a faster rate of pay down on the mortgage. But that will be huge when the mortgage is gone. That's a huge chunk of our expenses. You know, $32,000 a year for mortgage, and we're making $49,000 in eBay. We could ease up on eBay a little bit maybe, or we could start building a reserve, which we haven't done. So, a lot of possibilities, which is the exciting part. You know, there's a lot of things that can be happening. So, we're kind of holding that whole process right now until John gets a good picture of at least a couple of years in a row that we can take to Windsor Federal to start. We're saying Windsor Federal because they're the only really local bank in the area, and hopefully they would be the ones that would pay attention to us. So, anyways, that's the whole goal. Anything else on financials? Because that's always the biggest curiosity of people. How the hell do you do this? Well, there it is, I guess. But we've been doing it in the dark for a long time. All right, vision for the future. It's kind of funny because when I set up this agenda, I of course pulled up last year's agenda, and the ideas in this section right here were the exact same ones we had last year. We're still working on it, but that's okay. Things take a little longer when you're an all-volunteer part-time organization. And so one of the things that we mentioned last year as a big project for 2016 was the new library. Well, it's happening. It's happening. It's taken a while. This is the floor plan we have put together for it. And if you haven't been back there, I invite you after the meeting to go back and look. But Ann and Charles have been spearheading this whole thing. Ann is working on cataloging everything into the computer that we have in the library. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer right now, but that is awesome because when this library that's right behind the double doors ends up on the back wall, we will have everything cataloged. You'll be able to go to the computer and see exactly what's in there, search for whatever's in there. But the plan is basically here. This is against the back wall of our facility, and this is the domino effect that we deal with. We realize the space that the library takes up now, which is when you go through the double doors and you're immediately on your left and you have that big glassed-in area. We need a multi-purpose room. For meetings like this, we're not all crammed into the lobby, for one thing. For indoor swap meets, for large crystal classes. There have been people that want to come and entertain.
Ham radio classes.
Ham radio club meetings, whatever. We need a meeting room, and we don't have it. We do not have it here, and that would be the ideal space for it. So we realized after building the library in that space, that was the wrong space to put the library in. So we're moving it, and this is the new space. The room to the left of this, over to here, is our repair facility. So if you've been back there and know, in the far back corner we have the tube warehouse, then we have the repair facility, and next to that is going to be the library. And that wall across the front of the tube room is going to extend all the way across the back of the building. On the left are all the file cabinets. They've already been moved. They're there in the new location. And the stacks that you see there, again, the wonderful things that happen. It's like serendipity, but one of our supporters called and said, hey, there's a big law firm going out in Hartford. You want some shelving? We said, sure. The shelving in our existing library we built out of bleacher seats. We now have real matching metal shelving that look like a professional library. And it's basically, do we have all four of them set up, or are we still at three? We got all four? No, three. We got one more to go. We keep pushing the stuff back. There's, we realize there's all kinds of stuff back there. We keep pushing it back. We have 3 of the stacks are up. We'll have the 4th stack up, and then eventually we'll put the right-hand wall up. And those blue squares that you see along the right-hand wall are the record library. The record library is going to be reduced down to 42 boxes that will stack up about 6-7 feet along that wall. And that's the other thing we got to do. We have to reduce the records. We go back there and you have 15 million copies of Wagner's 8th Symphony or whatever. We only need 1. But I haven't found that person that's gutsy enough to go back there and say, these 8 are junk, we're going to keep this one. And if anybody's thinking about a job to do, that's a great one. We need it. But the other ones we'll sell or give away or whatever. There's other record collectors that will take them, but there's no reason for us to have umpteen million copies of one thing, and there's tons of those back there. Remember wonderful George Clark, rest his soul, he organized many of them together, and you see multiple copies of everything back there.
It'll build up your arms.
It will, yeah, they're heavy, If you need some exercise, skip the gym, come on over here and sort records for us. But we will swap meet the extra records or give them away or whatever, and we are going to reduce that massive record collection down to 42 boxes stacked up against the wall. So everything will be in one space right there, and that will work very, very nicely. So it is in the making. Go back and look at it. It's happening, and it's really kind of neat. We've got some new lighting back there, so the lighting is in pretty good shape, and it's all coming together. So that's one of the projects.
If I may make a comment?
Yes, please.
And under Charles's tutelage, Anne should be complimented on some of the links that she's found on the internet.
Yep.
And the fact that she's now locked us into a search engine so that other people can research our library and find out what we have.
Right, right.
So we've got a lot more visibility.
Yep, yeah. If you haven't met her, that's Ann in the back. She is here. I'm going to embarrass her and introduce her. But that is Ann, and she is studying library sciences right now, and this is her practicum, I guess. Yep. So, anyways, I hear we're going away with and getting away from the baking soda boxes. No more baking soda boxes. I love those boxes. Those are good. But, anyways, yes, it's happening, and that's right. It's coming along. The other project that is kind of on the back burner right now because Dan Thomas just has got 15 million plates that he's spinning all at once. Remember the old guy in Ed Sullivan show? He'd spin the plates. He'd get down to the end, the first plate's about ready to fall off. That's Dan Thomas. He's into everything, the eBay and all kinds of stuff. But we have a plan. This is Transmitter Alley. And we are in line to get the WPOP transmitter. It's not here yet, but it's getting close. And that's the first one you see down in the lower left. We have an old Armstrong, which is way down, going off the bottom of the screen. But we've laid it out for every transmitter that we have there. And we need a little bit more space than we have. We're going to have to push the Epley shelves back. But hopefully in the spring, when things get a little calmer, we can start cranking on this, especially if the POP transmitter comes in. But we eventually plan to kind of poke a hole through the wall back over by the TV studio and put a door in so people can go back and see Transmitter Alley. It's there. It's kind of in mothballs right now, but it's there, and it will happen.
We also have gates down the road.
Yes. Well, yeah. The other thing I don't know if everybody knows about, we got a gates out of, help me, Maryland. That was the National Radio Museum. They donated it to us. We basically loaned it to ARRL, where it is now set up and has been recently refurbished this week to run on
160 and 80.
160 and 80 meters AM.
Yeah, it's 100% functional.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, they made a contact and said there's still some switching stuff to put in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's an exhibit of ours that is on display at the ARRL and actually functioning as a transmitter.
250 carrier.
So, we've had some liaisons with other museums. The National Communications Museum down in Maryland has been one of them. They've been deaccessioning a lot of stuff, and we picked up a few things. We have a new Catlin Emerson radio in the display in there that came from them. One of the things, their stipulation is anything we take we have to keep in the display, and that's a little dangerous for us because we can't keep everything. But if it's a really, really rare, nice piece, we obviously are going to try to jump on it and grab it. There are other organizations been grabbing a lot of stuff too, but we got a few things from them. So, yeah. But this is the other project, and we have the plan for it. And the third thing is the multi-purpose room, which is the result of these previous two projects. Once we get all the other stuff out of the way, the record collection in the library, then we can set up that open room, and we can have it set up for tables, for swap meets, we can set up about 50 chairs in there, and we figure it's going to be a 50-seat auditorium, so if people want to come in. Terry Burton is the guy that does the Magic Lantern show, and he's wanted to come and put on a show here, but if he charges us to come, we can't get enough seats filled to pay for what he's going to charge us unless we have a full-size auditorium. So 50 seats would put us in range for a lot of different groups. Remember a number of years back we had a rock concert here basically, and they set up over by the Ham Shack and played, and it was a lot of fun, but we had like 70, 80 people here, half the people couldn't see the band because they were out amongst the displays. But they all had fun anyways, but we don't have a venue for that kind of stuff, and we need that venue for multipurpose. And that's kind of what's behind all these other projects, is to get that space cleared for multipurpose.
Hey, John?
Yes.
Just so you know, we are at 9:36.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna do all right. I think we're gonna be good. Anything on those projects? We good?
Maybe you need to mention the jukebox and the jukebox
Yes.
graphic coming up.
Yes, because I forgot to put it in the agenda, but yes. Most everybody, I think, knows about the jukebox project. We advertised it pretty well. But to sum it up, we collected or had donations of almost $3,000 for the project. It cost us $900 to get the cabinet stripped and refinished. And then Mark has headlined everything and gone through, and the whole thing is now functioning and working. We had to buy parts. We had to buy a new Catlin piece because there's a broken Catlin piece. There's a whole list of parts that had to be replaced, and Mark pretty much did all the work along with Paul. And it is now fully up, functioning, and restored, and beautiful. It sounds great. The cool thing along with that is that we got another jukebox out of the deal, because one of the guys that Mark had contacted had an Imperial 20, which we had an old beat up one in the back. And initially he was thinking about buying ours for parts, and then he said, oh, I'm old, I don't need this collection anymore. So he gave us the Imperial. And it cost us $300 to get it up here. Transportation, that's what we had left in the budget. So we ended up in a project that was designed to get one jukebox restored. We ended up with two jukeboxes, which is cool. So we're gonna have a celebration of that in April 14th, and we're gonna have some flapper dancers here and all kinds of cool stuff, refreshments, and we're just gonna have a nice celebration and talk about the whole project and what it did. But Mark, you want to add to it?
Yeah, just one quick thing. Clifford, the guy that donated that Rockola, I was talking to him this week, and I mentioned, you know, we sent him an invite, even though he's in Atlanta. Yeah. We sent him an invite just to be nice, you know, but I was talking to him this week, and he said, you know, I've got a lot of frequent flyer miles. He's thinking about coming up here for the Wurlitzer unveiling thing.
Okay.
So that would be quite nice if he did that.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. So we'll try to get some publicity out on that, you know, the month before, and see if we can get some, you know, media here. I mean, I know it's not something dying and bleeding on the sidewalk, so they probably won't come, but we'll try to get them here anyways for a cool event of unveiling of jukeboxes.
And
so.
just one more interesting thing. I mean, he's you know, been retired for many years. He's got 55 jukeboxes in his house, so that gives you an idea of his collection.
He sleeps outside the tent.
Probably not married.
No, probably not married. You're right. But anyways, so all kinds of good stuff. And I'm sure there's many more projects that we did that I've been forgetting, but anyways, that was a big one that should have been put in there. So, all right, on a more serious note, we had two more of our supporters pass away this year, and we're adding them to our volunteer board up there. They were not hands-on day-to-day volunteers, but they did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. One, of course, was Al Cohen. Al who's 99 years old when he passed away, and had been involved in communications from day one, and all kinds of things. He was in the Pacific during the war as a communications specialist. He did all kinds of things, and he was very, very supportive of the museum. He lined me up to make all kinds of talks. I talked to Kiwanis, I talked to a bunch of old broadcasters. They would call themselves the Boobs.
We worked through the circuit.
Yeah. And Al would keep going, John, you want to talk to somebody else? Sure. And he did everything to promote the museum. And he very seldom was here. When he was starting to move out of his house, he donated a lot of his collection to us. He was a behind-the-scenes supporter. Of course, he was the one that founded Signal Electronics in West Hartford. He and his friend and co-founder of it. Just a fantastic guy. So up on our board on the side there, we have the volunteer. You see two tags. We've got his, and the other one is Bob Rinaldi. A lot of you may not know of Bob, but Bob was a ham. And he, basically, the big thing he did for us was he was the one that connected us with Larry and Florence DeGeorge, and got us connected with the DeGeorge Foundation. The DeGeorge Foundation gave us $40,000 to build that studio we have, the soundproof studio at the other end. That was his big contribution. But he was, when he was healthy, he was struggling at the end, but when he was healthy, he would be at all these meetings and always being around his support, either ideas or financial or whatever. So we're going to honor both of those guys, and both of their names are up there that we can unveil to add to our memorial board. So, okay. Volunteers always needed. I already mentioned record sorters. They take a huge knowledge or talent. You know, you look at the record, if this one's cleaner than that one, you keep the clean one, discard the crappy one. If they both look exactly the same, then that's it. Tube sorting is still a big thing. I know Bill and some of the guys on Thursday have been working on, Ben have been working on getting a handle on the tubes and the knobs. It's a humongous task. As many tubes as we have organized and stored in the tube facility, we probably have just as many still out around the floor that need to be put away, and that would garner us a lot of floor space to do some of these other projects. So again, everything is tied together. Nothing works in a vacuum here. We're trying to clear space for the multi-purpose room. We can't clear space for the multi-purpose room because there's too many darn tubes out there on the floor. So it all ties together. And so if these guys are sorting tubes and getting them up on the stacks, they are actually helping get the multi-purpose room to happen, because we'll have a space to get the junk out of the multi-purpose room. Ben?
I can give a brief sort of quasi-update on the tube situation.
Good.
Michael and Don and I have kind of spearheaded going through right now what's in the actual physical room, which is a daunting task in and of itself. There's one section of the tube room that's going to have to be completely refiled because it's all out of order and is kind of chaotic. That's kind of part and parcel to, as we get the tube room finished, we move out to the shelves that have been pre-sorted, and from there move to the pile that's been sitting there, and then ancillary tubes that are stored all over the place. We have tubes stored everywhere. But we've been making progress. Luckily, we have an entire case of those tube boxes that we've been using as cubby storage, and thank you to everyone who's helping. One thing I will note is there are a few people who I've approached about tubes that I've segregated that I'm not sure we need to keep. I'm going to try and have a meeting of the minds, go through and pull everything that we might possibly need, and then we'll give the rest to the Nightlight Man. And hopefully there will be order in that chaos, and there will no longer be a pile sitting there.
Yeah.
But it's a lifesaver.
Excellent.
Hundreds of thousands.
It exemplifies everything we do around here, everything we do by committee. And you talk about that in the corporate world, and they all go, ugh. But around here, we have to do things by committee because we all have specialty backgrounds. And some people that are into tubes are into amplifier tubes, but not radio tubes. And then other people are into radio tubes, but not amplifier tubes, where they're both just about as valuable. And so by doing it by committee, we make sure that we keep all the stuff that's good, and it goes back there. It doesn't take a big skill. If anybody's thinking about helping us out, you read the number on the tube, and everything is in alphanumeric order on the shelves, so you find that number or tube and you put it on the shelf, basically. Understand that our tubes back there are not pre-tested. There's too many of them for us to be pre-testing tubes. So there could be a slew of bad tubes on the shelf. But when somebody comes along and says, I need a such and such 12AX7, we pull them 12AX7s down and we test them, and we find a good one and sell it to them. And if we find some bad ones, we take those and throw them out, or put them into the Nightlight or the chest sets. But there are tubes back there that are brand new in box, what they call new in box or new off shelf. And that's the other thing we have to judge, per tube, is that when we take a tube off of the shelf and it's in the original box and it doesn't look like the box has been opened, and it says RCA on the outside, and you open it up and it's an RCA tube matching the number on the inside, that's a new tube. And so we do have new tubes, as well as many of the repairmen in the old day, they'd take the old tube out of the radio, put the new tube in the radio, and take the old tube and put it in the box and throw it back in their caddy. And so you got a dud tube in a box. Some of ours, many of ours are probably that, but if we get enough of the tubes back there, you know, we're gonna have one or two good ones when somebody wants one or two good ones. So the thing is, we do have used tubes, and used tubes we discount like half price of what we pay what we charge for the brand new tubes. Chris has been working on putting together a new tube list. Our old tube list is outdated and the prices have changed, and we got to get that done and get a hard copy so that we have updated. We had a run on 12AX7s a couple of years ago, and when we found out why, our prices were way underpriced, and people were hearing about it and coming in and buying them wholesale to go around and turn them and sell them again. And we said no, and that's when we reviewed things. But we have to have an updated hard copy of a tube list. And what we do is we go on the internet and find the sellers on the internet, and if they're selling a tube for $10, we discount it 20% and sell it for $8. If it's used, we sell it for $4. So we have a reputation of selling discounted tubes, and that's what we want to keep, is the reputation for selling discounted tubes. And we tell everybody, you buy a tube from us, 100% goes to the museum. It's 100% support of the museum. So that's basically our tube business in a nutshell. But yeah, it can be big, and then sometimes when we find some really valuable tubes, we put them out on eBay and sell them on eBay, where you get a bigger spread of people that are looking for those tubes. So it gives us a lot of different flexibility in terms of income making. Mark?
So, you know, I'm on a bunch of Facebook pages for jukebox parts, and I just saw yesterday, in fact, somebody posting there going, anybody know where I can get vacuum tubes? And, you know, it crossed my mind that I could put something in there as a response of coming here. Didn't want to do that without talking to people up here first, but I mean, there are opportunities out there to get our name out more broadly for selling tubes.
Mark, do it.
Yeah.
Put it on that web, yes. Because we don't sell a huge volume of tubes, as you saw with the finances. We could sell more, and we have a hell of a lot of them back there. Not that they're all good tubes, but I think we got enough. We're 95% of the time we're going to have the tubes that people want. And if not, if we can't find it on the shelf, it's probably buried in the boxes that are still out on the floor. It's probably there. So, yeah. I mean, again, ideally someday it'd be wonderful to have our whole inventory on a computer, so you can sit there and go, yep, we got 10 of those. Well, we're nowhere near there yet.
Ben and I are working on that. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got to get them all up on the shelf, and then we got to go through an inventory, and then we got to put it in the computer. That I can say it in one sentence, but it's years of work to get it done. Yeah. But you know, that's where we're shooting for someday. So, and the other thing, I mean, docents. We are always in need of docents, people to give tours, and it seems like, I mean, we have about 5 or 6 of us that do it, and we could use more. Bob Allison is in Florida. He would be one of our docents today. Mark and I are basically the main docents for today. John is a docent on Sundays, and Bernie and Ed. Yeah, but you know, John Wigglesworth and Bill a couple weeks ago gave some really good tours because they had to. My voice was shot, I had a cold, and they jumped in. It's not that tough a thing to do. And Bernie has updated our docent handbook. So it's brand new, updated as of what, January, right? February, right now. So, you know, if you want to see what's entailed in being a docent, it's not a big, so many people are so afraid that they're going to be taking people around and they're going to ask you something about a radio and you don't know. You know what you say? I don't know.
I don't think there's a single tour that I do that somebody doesn't ask me a question and I go,
no idea.
I have no idea.
Yep, they always do.
Our Morse code chart there, 2 of the letters have the same Morse code on it. I've asked 2 or 3 times, why is that? I don't know.
Typo.
Yeah, one of them has a mistake.
One of them is wrong.
We got a mistake. Well, there's confusion between the American and the international and all kinds of stuff with the you know, that you learn, but you know, you learn by doing it. It's kind of fun. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I share in my tours, I learned from people that came through. I mean, you know, give you an example. The first telephone switchboard in the world was in New Haven, Connecticut. I never knew why. And one guy came through, he says, you know why? He said they were going to put the telephone exchange in New York. And New York, in their typical snooty attitude, said, no, try it someplace else. So they came up to New Haven and put it in New Haven. Somebody told me that. I assume it's true. But, you know, I learned that from a guest who came through and told me that story. So many times you're showing something and they start telling you something, you shut up and you listen. And all of a sudden your knowledge just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
So the thing that you would likely be afraid of before giving tours, that somebody who's a real expert on something comes in, but when that happens, they really want to tell you what they know about it. So if they're a real expert on Motorola or something like that, when you get to the Motorola radios, they'll start talking and they'll do the tour for you.
Yep. All you gotta do is stand there and absorb.
Yeah. Because I don't know that level of detail, and that's fine. They tell me, and they're happy to do it.
But Bernie's got a lot of information in the book if you do want to get basic information to start, but it's really not information based. The people that go through and take the tour, they leave and they say, you know, those people were so friendly, so supportive, so helpful.
952, by the way.
There wasn't. They just find it so much fun and so exciting that somebody personally took them for a tour through the museum and gave them a 2, 3, 4 hour visit. You know, like I said, if we didn't, I think the self-guided ones, sometimes when we don't have a docent, the people come in, they buzz through in about 20 minutes and they're out. That's it. You know, they miss a lot. But when we share the story that we know, whatever we know, and it doesn't matter if you don't know the whole thing, you share the parts that you do know with them, they love it. They go nuts. And that's the thing that sets us apart from any other museum, is that personal tour. So it's not that difficult. And one of the ways to do it, if anybody's interested, tag along on a docent tour by somebody else. I mean, what Mark does on his tour, what John does on his tour, what Bernie does on his tour, are all different, and they're all different from what I do. Because we all emphasize different parts of the history. It's all true. It's all true, but I emphasize different things than Bernie does. Bernie does different than John, and Mark, than Bob. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So, and it's a lot of fun. It's exhilarating to bring these people through, see them light up. I mean, we always said that the one thing we had, even back in New Britain days when we had 500 square feet of space, we had enough in there where most of the time people coming through would go, oh, there's Grandma's radio. And their face would light up and flushed in the face, and they start telling you all the stories about, yeah, we had to go upstairs and get our pajamas on and get ready for bed, and then we could come down and lay on the rug and listen to the radio and listen to The Shadow. And they're like, all these wonderful memories are just spilling out of them. Their eyes light up, their face gets all red, and they're so excited, they go out the door totally happy. And it wasn't anything we did, except, you know, in the radio they're looking at is probably nothing like Grandma's radio. They just think it's Grandma's radio. But that's it. It triggered that memory, and as long as they got that memory triggered, they go out of here happy. Doesn't matter what you do. The rest of the whole tour, doesn't matter what you do. You got their hot spot. That's the warm fuzzies.
I can give you the details outside of this meeting, but last week we had a 14-year-old who, when he saw the computers, that was his thing.
Yep.
And I ended up going to the back room and bringing up one of those boxes full of Timex Sinclair stuff.
Yep.
And he spent, it was hours. I don't remember.
Well, that's what the Word Perfect manual was out,
That's why
because
I
I was
yeah.
out there digging out. I
Yep.
digged out Ed's PS2 Junior or PC Junior. And I mean, he was
Yep.
taking photos and stuff.
Young
We're
kids-
at 9:55, by the way.
5 minutes.
Young kids today have a fascination with DOS.
Yeah.
They do. They
He
just
wants,
can't.
he wants to join
Yeah.
and
Yep.
get some of the computers to work. And I said, go ahead.
Yep.
You know, that's fine.
So, it's all good, but yeah, we can use more help. That's why things move so slowly. These projects are not moving fast enough because we don't have enough bodies. So, yeah, we can use more bodies, and that's not all you got to bring is your body, because it's not real taxing mental work. It's pretty simple stuff. So,
Get the young people involved too.
yes, yes, definitely. New business. Anything anybody wants to bring up about anything? Just open the discussion. Danny and his crew are standing back there waiting to get their class started. So, not the pressure, but I think we're good. We've had another great year. Every year seems to get better and better. It's awesome. It's great. So,
I think that we had our best year this year.
yeah.
I really do.
Well, I think what's happening is we're finally getting into a groove. Everybody's got their job, and you know, everything's clicking and moving along well, and you know.
Plus best year for volunteers, I think.
Yep. We got new volunteers.
Oh, we
Yep.
have good last year, maybe the year before, on the grounds in the garden outside.
Yep.
It looking very sharp.
Yep.
When the weather permits.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael and his family that did all that. So again, that's the way it works. People chip in different spots, and it all comes out beautiful. So, Charles.
Do you need Alan Ball's call signs?
I think I've got them. I pulled up the obituaries. I don't think I put them on the cards though, did I? No, on their name tags. I don't think we put it up there.
Auburn only was W1CNY and now is W1FXQ.
FXQ, yep, I got it here. So that might have been a mistake on my part because I don't think I put them on their name tags up
In
there.
fact, most of the people on our list, except for about 2, are hams.
Our hams, yep, on our memorial board, so, yep. We good?
We good.
All right, again, thank you guys for coming. You are the ones that make this happen. People's support is what makes it go, so, perfect. I do encourage you, if you haven't been back there, go back and look at the new library developing. Ann is here somewhere, I think, is she still here? And she can explain to you what's happening back there. If you haven't been in the transmitter alley, the transmitters are there, they're not on display. But,
John, thank you for coordinating all this. You do a lot.
oh, you're welcome.